I never thought my past would come back to haunt me like this. For years, I've lived with the choices I made in my youth, believing they were just part of a journey that led me to the life I have now. But last night, my husband, the man I thought would stand by me no matter what, told me he wanted a divorce because of something I did before we even met. It all started innocently enough. We were cleaning out the attic, a routine task that felt more like a treasure hunt. Among the old photo albums and forgotten knickknacks, he found a box I had buried years ago. Inside were memories of a life I'd left behind, photos, letters, and one very specific artifact that changed everything. He held it up with trembling hands, his face pale. "Is this yours?" I nodded, my heart sinking. I knew exactly what he was holding. It was a journal, one I'd kept during a turbulent time in my life. I had hoped to never open it again, let alone have it read by someone else. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "How could you hide this from me?" My past was messy, and not the kind of mess you laugh about over drinks with friends. In my early 20s, I'd been in a relationship with a man who brought out the worst in me. Together, we made terrible decisions that led to heartbreak, regret, and a version of myself I've worked hard to leave behind. The journal documented everything: the bad decisions, the lies, the betrayal of people I cared about, and worst of all, a secret I'd sworn to take to my grave. My husband had every right to feel blindsided. We'd built our marriage on the foundation of honesty, or so I thought. But the truth was, I'd selectively edited my past when I told him my story. I'd omitted the parts that felt too shameful to share, convincing myself they were irrelevant to our life together. That night, our home became a battlefield of emotions. He accused me of being deceitful, of building a marriage on lies. I tried to explain that my past didn't define the person I am today, but he wasn't ready to hear it. "I thought I knew you," he said, pacing the living room. "But now I don't even know who I married." "You know me," I pleaded. "I'm still the same person." "This doesn't change anything." "It changes everything," he snapped. "How can I trust you after this?" In the days that followed, our home was filled with silence, punctuated only by the sound of doors closing or footsteps on the stairs. I felt like I was living with a stranger, and maybe he felt the same way. One night, he finally broke the silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice softer this time. I hesitated, searching for the right words, because I was ashamed, and because I didn't think it mattered anymore. "I've spent years trying to move on from that part of my life, but it does matter," he said. "Not because of what you did, but because you didn't trust me enough to tell me." We decided to seek counseling, both individually and as a couple. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the only way forward. Through therapy, we began to unpack the layers of hurt, shame, and misunderstanding that had built up between us. I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes of my past, and he learned to see me as a whole person, flaws and all. It wasn't an overnight fix, but it was a start. After months of hard work, we reached a crossroads. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said one evening, "and I realized that what matters most is the life we've built together. But I need to know, can you promise me there's nothing else you're hiding?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I promise. Rebuilding trust is a long and winding road, but we're walking it together. The experience has taught us both valuable lessons about honesty, forgiveness, and the complexities of human relationships. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's stronger than it was before. And while my past will always be a part of me, it no longer feels like a weight I have to carry alone." There were moments when I doubted we'd ever get to this place. Days when he wouldn't meet my eyes, and nights when I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd destroyed the most beautiful thing I'd ever had. But little by little, we began to find each other again. It started with small things: a shared smile over coffee, a quiet good night when I least expected it. Those moments grew into conversations, tentative at first, then deeper and more honest than we'd ever been before. Therapy sessions were exhausting, sometimes dredging up pain we'd both tried to bury, but they also brought clarity. He admitted that part of his anger stemmed from his own insecurities, from the fear that he wasn't enough for me. And I confessed that I'd hidden my past not just from him, but from myself, afraid that facing it would unravel everything I'd worked so hard to build. Slowly, we began to rewrite the narrative of our marriage, one where honesty wasn't just an ideal, but a practice we committed to every day. Trust, we realized, wasn't something you could demand or expect. It was something you earned, over and over again. And so we started anew, not as the perfect couple we'd once imagined ourselves to be, but as two imperfect people choosing each other despite everything. If there's one thing I've learned through this experience, it's that love isn't about finding someone who has a spotless past. It's about choosing someone who's willing to stand by you as you work through the messiness of life together. And for that, I'm grateful every day. Because in the end, it's not about the mistakes we've made, but the way we choose to move forward together.